Would the Dolphins drop off more without Hill or if they didn't have Tua?
What is up, Sportscast? Welcome to the Sports and Stuff Show, the Kings of Comedy. I'm Cainon.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Carter.
And let's get right into it. Our first update is brace your ears because Carter's going to be talking about the 49ers for about a good amount of time.
Well, not going to lie, I think we both had this kind of
like you didn't do it with the Broncos last week.
Not going to lie, when you did that intro, that's the first time Cainon's done it. I was kind of like, wait a minute.
I had to start.
Who says our name next?
Well, I just assumed.
I know. Well, I was kind of confused there for a second. But anyways.
I just want to do the intro just so I could say brace your ears.
We survived the intro. Okay. All right. We
have
have
the intro.
quite a bit of an agenda today. It's primarily NFL and only NFL.
No, we got some. We got a good
some other
agenda.
stuff.
We're chilling.
Yeah, but primarily it's football because NFL's mid-season, college football is right at the playoffs, so
it's a big deal.
Yeah. Anyways, let's go into that. First one, I'm not going to read that word because we're going to get canceled. 49ers destroy the Eagles, 42-19. Carter obviously wrote that one. Do you like to talk about?
I mean, Carter obviously wrote that like it's not exactly what happened.
I mean, that is true, but
okay. I'll take the gum out for this one. So, yes, the 49ers beat the Eagles 42-19, and after that, it put Brock Purdy as the MVP betting favorite. And some people had an issue with that.
A lot of backlash.
Lots.
A lot of backlash.
So I'm here to just give a quick case for it, I guess, because
sales pitch.
Yeah, it is a sales pitch. So Brock Purdy, the new MVP favorite, which feels so good to say. These are the categories that he is number one in the entire league in through week 13 of the season. Completion rate, yards per attempt, yards per completion, touchdown percentage, passer rating, quarterback rating, EPA per play, success rate, DVOA, passer rating on throws 10-plus yards down the field, passer rating on 20-plus yards down the field, fourth in touchdowns, seventh in yards. Of the 7 highest passer rating games this season, he has 4 of them, all above 144. And he's the third quarterback in the history of the NFL with 3 games of 3 or more touchdowns and 140 or above QBR in a single season. The other 2, 2007 Tom Brady, who won MVP, 2011 Aaron Rodgers, who won MVP. Now, I understand some of the arguments. The argument, he just throws it short and they run away, which, first of all, highest passer rating on deep throws. Second of all, 48.5% of Purdy's pass yards this season are yards after the catch. The average percentage of the last 10 MVPs, 48.1. Patrick Mahomes won MVP last year at 54.2%. So, not really a valid argument. As far as the supporting cast argument, he absolutely has talent around him, especially at the skill positions, arguably the best in the league. Offensive line, though, since week 6, no quarterback has thrown out of a clean pocket less than Brock Purdy has. He has a really bad offensive line, and he's still making it work. So that's not really a valid argument either. Now, the other contenders I see to be Dak Prescott is the main one. Jalen Hurts is up there betting favorite-wise.
In parentheses, nah.
Listen, 11 tush-push touchdowns don't move me, and if you take those out,
they move him.
It doesn't look too good.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill, you have to put him in the conversation. He's probably going to get 2,000 yards, which is
he should
absurd. McCaffrey, maybe. Again, same reason as Tyreek. They're not quarterbacks. And then maybe Tua, but again, I don't know. For me, the main 2 right now are Brock and Dak. Obviously, there's a long way left to go, so who knows what's going to happen. But I think it's between them, and that's why.
Yeah. I mean, at this point in the season, it kind of narrows it down on who you kind of think.
Do I get to mock you guys now, like the whole time you were there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, we were just doing it because you're listing
I was just doing a little
long
dance.
range of 49er accomplishments,
It's just stats.
Wait till the Broncos are good.
It's just stats.
I think for the NFL contenders,
you don't want me to list them. Have someone be better than him in
I
one
mean,
of those.
I think with the MVP, it always happens the same. At the beginning of the year, you pick someone, hardly ever is that the MVP. That's been the same thing with like Kyler Murray.
I think I picked Herbert this year.
Yeah, like I mean, you normally pick them
I
at the
don't wanna talk about
beginning,
who I
like
picked.
the early phases of the season, and then they normally drop off. Then you get the actual legit contenders at the middle of the season, and then it's kind of the race. And I think we're at that point right now. I think it's probably between. It seems like right now it's a legitimate chance between Brock and Dak at this point. But
And
like you
Tyreek.
said,
And don't get me wrong, Hurts has a chance. I just
don't think he does. I mean,
think he
How-
does. I don't know if he should.
This is how I see it. Tyreek Hill is on pace for the greatest wide receiver season of all time.
Mhm.
Without Tyreek, that Dolphins team is substantially worse, in my opinion.
Hot take.
That's a hot take.
No, it's not a hot
Oh,
take.
okay. I was gonna say they're
Yeah,
substantially
taking
worse.
away your best player would make
Exactly.
you worse.
But how I just don't like the idea that I understand the quarterback is the most important position on the field.
Okay.
It is, but
Let me phrase it this way. As far as Tyreek Hill and McCaffrey go, would the Dolphins drop off more without Hill or if they didn't have Tua? I think they drop off more without Tua. 49ers
I
drop
don't know
more
about
without
that.
McCaffrey or Purdy. They drop more without Purdy.
I
doubt
don't
that.
know because the Dolphins. Okay,
Tyreek Hill is one of the biggest reasons
I
that team
know.
is successful.
Absolutely.
You're gonna
Absolutely.
I think he is, if not the biggest reason.
you're gonna hate me for
They
this.
would drop off more without a quarterback.
You're gonna hate me
You
this.
saw how they played when they were starting backup quarterbacks last year.
Yeah, and Tyreek
We
Hill is
saw
still
it.
getting yards.
That doesn't mean it. That proves my point.
Yeah,
If Tyreek is still getting yards when the team is trash and they're not playing well, how is he the most valuable if the quarterback who got taken out is the reason they were losing?
No, Tyreek Hill is still able to put up those amazing numbers.
That
But they're
is-
losing.
when-
I understand
that
what
is
Carter's
my
saying.
point.
I understand what Carter's saying, but they're losing.
You're literally proving my
However,
point.
But going back to the McCaffrey thing versus McCaffrey versus Purdy, I mean you look at the was it year whatever the Niners have always been good, and then they get Purdy. The last like 3 years they've had a very good run offense, and they got McCaffrey and then Purdy in the same year. And how I see it is, you lose McCaffrey, who's your main running game. I don't see Elijah Mitchell doing McCaffrey's own. No one does.
Well, no one's
but
going to do
no-
what McCaffrey
yeah,
does.
no one's doing what McCaffrey
But
does.
Elijah Mitchell
But
was still successful before McCaffrey got there.
I can see Purdy being a replaceable person, if that's what I'm saying. I think the Niners would still be good if he was replaced. I'm not saying as good, but they would still be a playoff team.
I understand the teams are not the exact same as they were at the time,
yeah.
but we just beat the Eagles 42-19 on the road. The last time we played them, we had McCaffrey, we didn't have Purdy, and we lost by 24.
Yes, but you threw in Josh Johnson, was it?
Mhm.
Josh Johnson. Yeah, how many he played one drive? and
Trade
got a
deadline is
concussion.
passed. If players go down, it's who you got.
You're right. But you
I
throw
think
in
this was
Josh
also-
Johnson. You throw in Josh Johnson, which again is not my argument. My point is Josh Johnson got hurt.
Mhm.
So that is, we've never seen that before. That's just random.
Even for a couple, even while he was playing though, we still fell further
I
behind.
think the game also kind of just depends on the 49ers had a bigger chip on their shoulder than the Eagles did in that game. And the Eagles, I don't think they took the game as personal as the 49ers did.
Couldn't disagree more.
Like you saw that the 49ers were wearing funeral wear during the game,
Yeah,
to the game.
we bury
Because
teams when we're healthy.
That was the thing, was the 49ers were salty about that loss for the longest time. The Eagles didn't really care
pretending
as
like
much.
the Eagles didn't care as much is insane.
I know
I
they,
will-
well, they
That-
cared,
that
but
is-
the
that is a
49ers cared
ridiculous
significantly
argument.
more.
Look,
than the
I will
Eagles.
say this,
No.
Burgess.
They
I
cared
disagree
significantly
with you.
If the
only-
Eagles don't care about every game as much as their opponent, they won't do anything.
Exactly.
Every NFL team
That's
cares.
what I was
I
gonna
know,
say.
but the 49ers,
The motivation aspect is a fan thing.
the motivate.
Yeah.
I know, but they have.
You say you know that I just said the exact opposite of your argument.
No, I'm listening to what you're saying. I know with that, the only issue is that the 49ers, they were the ones that came on the butt end of that game. So they obviously have much more motivation to prove that they're the right team and they're the best team of
or
the two. Because that was the argument.
Or the Eagles heard all offseason, oh, you only beat us because our quarterback wasn't healthy, and they were salty, which is what happened. And they cared more because they wanted to prove they were
How
the
I
team.
see it is going off your point, let's just say the Niners did care more about the Eagles than that.
What does that say about Philly?
Yeah, that says something very poor about a 10-1 football team. They're not going to do anything.
This was
if
the
there's
biggest
no
game of the
motivation.
regular
Well,
season.
Biggest game of the regular
I
season.
guarantee they cared
They
as
obviously
much.
didn't do anything as
Oh,
motivation.
well, it's because gosh, I did not
That
want to
wa-
give Carter this credit, but it's because the Niners stood on business. Like Debo
I don't
Samuel
want to give
backed up.
Carter the credit.
I like disagreeing with you.
But that's the thing.
But-
Is, I mean,
but
if you're the team that has the leverage going into the game, there's a higher
There was zero
chance of
leverage.
I would say
The
the
Eagles
leverage.
had the
I would say the leverage
Eagles,
is with the
yeah.
games who are 2 games ahead and at home.
The
They're
Eagles had the
2
pressure
games
in that
ahead.
game.
How'd they have the pressure if the Niners lost and the Eagles would have?
If the Niners lost,
Eagles
the
won
Eagles
that,
lock up the 1 seed.
Exactly.
What,
Yeah.
No pressure there.
and it's a home game too, so the Eagles, if anything, have way more leverage.
No, but the 49ers didn't have as much to lose as the Eagles.
I disagree. You have
No.
a
No,
hot,
no, no.
You have a
hold
hot.
on. Hold on.
Because can I finish? Okay.
You're
So-
contradicting yourself, but
So
go for
the
it.
the Eagles, as you said, they could get the number 1 seed, which also puts pressure onto the team. So they have that, as well as the 49ers have a much worse chip on their shoulder because they lost, and they're labeled as the team that wasn't as great as the Eagles. Is that true? The 49ers were
I mean,
labeled
they were
not as
we were favorites.
no, but that was the thing and you said this on the last episode, that the Eagles, you said that people were undermining the 49ers against the Eagles. You said that yourself. Did you not?
Undermine.
No, you said that people were undervaluing the 49ers and the Eagles, 49ers versus
I
Eagles.
said that
I
because I
saw-
thought we were the better team.
So, no, but then with that, so the Eagles have the leverage because they're the more favored team by the majority of eyes, as well as they won last year in the playoffs to the championship game. So the pressure's on them, but also, with that pressure comes another team that has way more kind of fuel in the fire because they have something to prove, way more than the Eagles. Because having that and being humiliated right before the championship game and trying to come back and all this stuff like, oh, the 49ers are never as good as the Eagles is much more motivation. And you saw that by all the players having and wearing literal like grave and funeral wear because they were trying to show that they're going to kill the team.
I disagree, and the reason I disagree is because if the Eagles had no motivation,
well,
they
obviously
have
the Eagles have
okay.
motivation.
Look. The Eagles have the Cowboys creeping up on them. They knew the
Mhm.
Niners are creeping up on them. If the Eagles won, they're set. So if that's not enough motivation, like if let's just say
and
what
not
you're saying
only
is
that,
correct.
I want to use your own words right now, where you said the Niners didn't have as much to lose as the Eagles. If that's true, the Eagles would care more.
No, but that's the
If
thing.
you have more to lose, you're going to care more.
The more to lose, the more likely you're going to lose. And that's
I completely disagree because the better teams have more to lose.
like the Lions, like Lions versus Packers. Lions had way more to lose because they were the, top team. And then the Packers came in, they were the underdogs of that team. They go in to Detroit and then they beat them. That's
I
just how it
disagree.
is.
The Packers had more to lose. The Packers' season was on the line in that game, in my opinion. If the Packers lose
Yeah.
that game, they're too
No,
bad.
but
behind
that's the
wild
thing
card.
is the Lions, they were coming up from a position of power because they were the top team.
Exactly, and they're still one of the top teams. That loss didn't matter as much as the Packers would have been.
Okay, no, let's just apply that exact same logic to other games. The Chargers came in for more of a position of power than the Patriots. They won. You can't just look. You can't cherry pick random upsets and be like,
that is
"Oh, this
different
is
because
why."
Out of all
those
the
are
games, you
more
picked
those
that
are
one.
more personal games.
It was the first one that popped
because
into my head.
because the Eagles and 49ers, that's a more, personal game. Would you not say?
Yeah, it was a personal.
That was
just
more
don't
of a
think
personal
that
game.
has an effect on what you're saying.
Because, there's not any bad blood between the Chargers and the Patriots
I
in that type.
disagree.
You're saying the Chargers and Patriots
The
have
Patriots have killed the Chargers like in the playoffs like 3 separate times.
Yeah.
I have friends with a lot of Chargers fans. They hate the Patriots.
No, but that's not a thing with the team. As of, the 49ers and Eagles, there's way worse bad blood in that one. As the Packers and Lions, there's way worse bad blood.
And the bad blood goes both ways. They
Yeah.
both cared.
They both care. So if anything that contradicts
You're
your
not,
argument
you're
too,
not going
'cause
to
that-
discredit.
if anything that contradicts your argument too, because that means they both have more motivation if they both have bad blood.
Yeah.
no, but
you,
that's the
you
thing.
can't
is,
discredit a road beating of the #1 record in the league because
I know,
they
well,
didn't care enough.
I'm not
Unfortunately,
saying
he's
that.
right.
I'm saying that it makes sense. I'm saying that it makes sense that the 49ers would do this because
they're the better team.
it just you predict it because no, I'm not saying that they're the way better team that they blew them out.
I know you're not.
Because
I am.
I think that if they played again, it wouldn't be as close or as
So
much of a
what
blowout.
made
Yeah,
it
I
a
don't
blowout
think
then?
we'd win by
I just said-
23 again, but
So
I
what?
think we'd win again.
I'm still
I
kind
think
of
the
lost
outside
on.
factors.
I don't know. This
So
whole
you think- you
argument
think-
com-
I said there's
lost me.
multiple
I know.
factors that
I'm
came
kind of
into it.
confused at what
So-
you're arguing too, because are you saying you're putting an asterisk next to this win?
Yeah, I'm saying that I don't think if you put them in, if you put it into if you put the Eagles and 49ers again, there's no way the 49ers are destroying the Eagles. I think there's too much different
What does
factors
that have
played
to do
into
with
it.
it
What is
happening?
the difference? What's the difference?
cares?
What is the difference in factors between this game and then if they played again in the playoffs?
I think that, like I said, there's now they're 1-1. Before it was the Eagles were 0-1, or
It's
the
a new-
Eagles were
All
It's
right,
a-
1-0.
it's a
okay,
new
I'm gonna cut you
year.
off just
It's
so
a
I
new
can
year.
paint a
We're
picture.
1-0.
Let's just say this was the last game of the season. Let's just say it was the Niners destroyed the Eagles. Now let's just say they play each other again this week in the playoffs.
Mhm.
They're 1-1. So are you saying that a week after a road beating, now that the outcome would be different per se?
I
Is that
think
what
it
you're
would
saying?
be different.
Do you
Just
think the
because
Eagles
you
would
think
beat
it
them?
would be different doesn't mean a win has an asterisk.
Yeah,
I think
That's
no,
ridiculous.
but I don't think that that's the true story because if you looked at that, you'd say the 49ers are a much better team, which I think
think
is far from
they
the truth. I think they're much closer. I just think the Eagles just got caught up in different circumstances that made them,
Different
drop
circumstances.
this game.
The only circumstance I could
They
think they
cared
got caught
just as much as we did, and they got packed up.
exactly.
The 49ers came into the game with a much
So then
you
good
know,
for the
much
49ers.
worse mentality.
Then good
Yeah.
for the 49ers. They had a good mentality.
a much worse
Eagles,
mentality.
Guess what?
I think if they-
Mentality is part of being a good team.
exactly. So if you
No,
have a
but
bad,
that's what I'm trying to argue is I think the Eagles didn't have the right mentality in this game, but if they played again, then they would.
That's
because
on them.
there's
That doesn't
different
that doesn't
factors.
put an asterisk on the win.
you give Kobe Bryant's mentality to Patrick Beverly. Patrick Beverly is one of the best players in the NBA.
Well, okay, I don't know about all that.
Oh no, my point. Okay. Yes, he will. Random point. I love Patrick Beverly. I don't
Just
think
because
guys
you
knew
think
this.
the
But,
result would be different next time doesn't put an asterisk on it. If the Chiefs and Packers played again this week, I think the Chiefs would beat them. So
like there's
fake win
rare,
for the
there's rare
Packers.
in the NFL. I don't like the idea of asterisks. I really don't because in the NFL there's so little games that every game matters so
Mhm.
much.
They all care.
They all care. Like
For the asterisk, I'm giving the credit to the 49ers for the win.
No,
I'm
you're
just
not.
saying it's not as it wouldn't be. I'm not giving them credit for the blowout because I don't think that
Well, they did
was
blow
an
them out. They
accurate
deserve they
representation.
deserve credit for what they did.
I don't think that's an accurate representation.
I don't
of
think the
both
Packers
teams at their full.
I don't think the Packers beating the Chiefs is an accurate
why are the
representation.
Eagles? One second. Why are the Eagles
doesn't
not on their
matter.
full?
Because I just mentioned why. Because
Because their
Because
head's
they
not in the
didn't care
game.
enough?
yeah, I
Because
don't
their
think
head's
I don't
not in the
think they're
game.
in the game as much as the 49ers were.
Well, if with that being
Going
said,
into
then
it.
the Eagles don't deserve to win a game for the rest of the season.
Yes.
With
Exactly.
that being said, the Eagles do not deserve to win a game for the rest of the season. I don't think
This
that's
is
true.
A
I think
different scenario than if they were to play some other team like Washington.
Okay, no.
Like-
okay,
well, that's
okay,
because
hold
the
on, hold on,
Washington
hold on.
Commanders are
Hold
not
on.
the San Francisco
So what-
49ers.
Exactly.
What you're no, listen. I'm going to lay out your own argument for you.
Mhm.
You are saying the 49ers blew them out because the Eagles didn't care as much.
Mhm.
And yet you're also saying it would be different against another team. But you also said there's bad blood between these teams. So why would they care more about a different game than this game?
No, no, that's not what I'm saying.
That's exactly
not what I'm saying.
All of those things.
No, they didn't care as much
Cainon,
as the
did I say
49ers.
that?
They didn't care as much as the 49ers. I'm not saying they didn't care at all.
Yes, they did. I
They
promise you
did
they
not
did.
care as much as the 49ers. And that
How do you
showed
know?
on the field.
Okay,
do you
wait.
know?
I just
That
want
showed
this.
on the
I just want
field.
this.
That-
Okay.
I promise you that wasn't about caring. They
Carter,
got
That showed
beat.
on the field.
Tell me now, is Desmond Ritter a top 5 quarterback?
No.
Territory we're in.
Tell me now.
That shows because if the Eagles cared as much as the 49ers in that game, it would have been a much closer game.
I couldn't possibly disagree more. This
Okay,
is one of the
look.
most outlandish takes I've
Okay,
ever heard.
look. Let's just say the Eagles didn't care and the Niners cared more. Then would that be an argument for every other NFL game this season? That the
You'd have
like
to.
for example, like the Texans. I don't want to talk about the Texans beating the Broncos, but the Texans beat the Broncos because the Texans wanted it more. Then that goes for every game. You can't put an asterisk above it because technically, how I mean, I actually see sports that way. Is whatever team wants it more is gonna win. The Niners wanted it so much more, so they won. Good on the Niners. That's not a bad thing for the Niners.
I just don't think that this is an accurate representation of, because if you looked at this game,
It doesn't matter what you think it happened.
Because it's not an accurate representation of the 49ers stacking against the Eagles and the rest of the league. Because if you saw this, then you would think that the 49ers are by far and away the best team in the NFL.
Unfortunately, I
which
do.
They're not. They're
Who
not
are the Eagles?
The Eagles are still up there. The Eagles are still a top team.
Okay, but
regardless
the
of
49ers
loss.
just beat them by 23. So,
But I told you that that's not an accurate representation of how they are compared to the rest of
That's
the league.
your
because-
opinion, and also doesn't change the result of the game.
I know, but that's why we're on this show, is to show our opinions. So like,
It's just
okay.
okay, I
they didn't care enough. So
I
it's
actually
a
want
fake
to.
win.
I actually want to see this. With that being said, do you still think the Eagles are going to come out of the NFC? And that's not a bad take if you think they are.
I do think so.
You think the Eagles are going to come
Yeah.
out of the NFC, even if they play the Niners again? You think the
Mhm.
Eagles are beating the Niners?
I think the Eagles are beating the Niners next time.
Good Lord, I hope the Packers stick in the 7th seed.
Well,
All right.
I don't think the Packers are going that far in the playoffs.
They're not.
Yeah.
Not if they get to 7.
Okay. Well, then there you have it then. Because, look, opinion, whatever. Adam Bridges thinks that the Eagles are going to beat the Niners in the playoffs.
And he thinks they don't care about big games. as
So
much.
let's
That's
just
not
wait.
at all what I said.
Let's just wait till that. Okay, that is what you said. But let's just
No,
wait till
I
that.
said
Okay,
they
next
didn't care
topic.
as much
Next
as
topic.
the 49ers.
That
next
is
not
word
topic.
for
every
word what I
single-
said.
not
I
every
said
single
as
big
much.
game.
That is word for word what I
No,
said.
not every single big game. That's what you said. I
All right,
said
key game
this
reviews.
specific game. This wasn't that.
Key game reviews. The Rams beat the Browns. The Rams are now 6-6. They've won their last 3. They're
That's a
second in
fake
the
win,
NFC
though.
West.
The Rams cared more.
All right, next key game. No, I'm kidding. Browns are kind of dropping. Rams kind of rise. I'm really high in the Rams right now. I mean, they're fully healthy finally. They have a very strong offense. Their defense a little iffy, but I do like the Rams. They're playing a good team next week. Who are they playing? We just talked about this.
Who?
Ravens.
Ravens. They're playing the Ravens next week. He says the Ravens are going to blow them out.
I
Did you say
didn't
blow
say
them out?
that.
You say
I
win.
said they'd win.
You think the Ravens
It's
are
not
going to win?
exactly a hot take.
He thinks the Ravens are going to win. That's not a hot take at all. I am excited to watch that game because I think the Rams might surprise some people in that game, go up to 7-6 potentially, beat a very hot Ravens team. I do want to see that happen, but I don't know. I'm excited about the Rams. They have a very strong offense. On to the next game. No, I want to skip this game. I don't want to talk about
Texans
this game.
Broncos. I think this was a fair. This was an interesting game because both teams came into this really red hot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Texans, everyone kind of discredited them, and same with the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos, they had a little bit more hope going into this season because they were kind of hoping Russell Wilson would be better, and then the Texans out of nowhere, kind of just getting those pieces. No
Wilson's
one
been
really knew where
great.
they'd fit.
So
No, at the beginning of the season.
No, he's
And then
talking about
he
the
ended
beginning of
up-
the season.
Beginning of the season, people were kind of hoping they're like, maybe
Okay,
we'll see a
he's
better
right,
Russ.
yeah.
And then he started to suck at the beginning of the season. People were like, oh,
No,
we
that's
lost
not
hope.
true.
No, he did not.
At the beginning of the
He's
season?
never sucked at one point this season.
Mhm.
The losses
Beginning of
are
the
not
year?
his
He
fault.
didn't.
Losses are not his fault.
Uh,
But losses. Okay, fine. Russell Wilson, it's your fault. You gave up 70 to the Dolphins. It's
Yeah.
your fault. But Texans beat the Broncos. That was at the end of the day, Texans wanted it more. Broncos kind of shot themselves in the foot too many times. First interception. I mean, it was Russell Wilson's fault. It got tipped at the line of scrimmage though. Really unlucky on that one. Second one was just a bad read. He had a Cortland Sutton seam over the middle, and the the safety just picked it. And then that last one was horrid. Third and goal with the game on the line. You still have another play after that. He just tried forcing one. That at the end of the day, it was a good game. Can't be too sad. Broncos still 6-6. Texans got a game ahead of them. I think Texans are going to be a playoff team. I don't think they're. This might be a hot take for you guys, but I don't think they're that scary of a playoff team. I still think the AFC's powerhouses are too good. The Dolphins, the Ravens,
actually
the
agree.
Jags.
I think right now they're good enough to slip in the playoffs, but I don't think they're good enough
They
to make a
they're
push.
also good enough to win the division. I just don't. I mean, they could win. I just don't think they're better than like the Dolphins. I don't think they're gonna make a crazy good run. Prove
They
me
don't
wrong.
have to be better.
Let's say again.
They don't have to be better. It's one game elimination. If you're in, you have a chance.
No, yeah. Oh no, I agree with that. I just don't see it happening. I mean, well, we'll see. Prove me wrong. Texans do look very hot. They're a very good team. I actually do love the energy that the Texans have. I mean, they
That's D'Amico, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Ryans.
dude, I watched that game. Houston was like made it so loud.
His energy is
the
infectious.
energy was crazy. I'm watching as a Broncos fan, like, dude,
He changed
like
the whole culture of
the
that
most-
team in one offseason.
The most interesting thing about the team too is because there's been this wide open narrative that only offensive coaches can succeed in the league, and
I don't think that was a narrative.
that's been a thing where offensive coaches, like head coaches, have been the ones who've been succeeding. Like if you look at it, Andy Reid, you see Jim Harbaugh,
What about defensive
see-
Bill Belichick?
Bill
Yeah,
Belichick right now is
Jim
suffering
Harbaugh.
right now.
When Jim Harbaugh was a coach in the NFL, he had 3 different dudes calling plays on offense for him.
No, but those are the
Yeah.
top teams, and as well,
and
you
Jim
see-
Harbaugh when Jim Are you talking about? Okay, I
I'm
get
just
Jim and
talking
John
about
mixed
the
up. One
offensive
sec.
coordinators right now, like the offensive-minded head coaches.
Yeah,
They're
like
the ones that
McVay.
are the ones that are
McVay.
succeeding right now.
Yes, you're not wrong. I'm trying to
And,
think of a good defensive one right now.
We're the only
Bill
one that's really
Belichick.
right now.
Bel-
Belichick right now is
D'Amico
2-9.
Ryans.
D'Amico Ryans is a
No,
defensive
but that's what I'm talking about. Is he's kind of breaking that mold.
Jim
where
Harbaugh was.
right now, and as well we have
I'm trying to think of the.
Sean McDermott. But Sean McDermott right now, his team is
Stinks.
shaky.
He's bad.
Mhm.
You know, you have
Unfortunately, you're right.
you know most of the top teams right now
I don't think the Bills are a top team,
are
but
most likely, you know,
Definitely not.
are majority offensive coaches. But with the Texans right now, with that hire, I think it's really interesting that, you know, it's kind of shaking that kind of pattern that we've seen so far. So, especially like the Dolphins too.
what's
Like,
his name?
Josh, or
Isn't
Mike McDaniel? Like,
what's the Lions coach's name?
Campbell's defense.
Campbell's
Campbell.
defense. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
you know,
Campbell's
but
defense.
that's kind of like the narrative that people are trying to push right now is that the offensive-minded coaches are kind of dominating the game right now.
There are definitely more good offensive coaches than defensive,
There's
but
also more bad ones.
there's also more bad ones. Exactly.
There's just more in
Hackett
general.
last year really made me wanna not be a Broncos fan.
Mhm.
I mean, there's. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking about Hackett's offense last year. If I'm being honest, I just got PTSD.
Man, the very first game too. But I think, you know, especially with the Texans getting this win and the Jaguars losing and also losing Lawrence for I don't know
Yeah.
how long with a high ankle sprain, it does look like the Texans could be, you know, a candidate to win that South Division.
You're right, and honestly, watch
always
out for
were.
the Colts. They have Colts. Okay, granted, their schedule has been kind of a bit of a cakewalk. Don't get me wrong. However, Minshew looks good. That Minshew-Pittman connection looks really good. John Taylor's getting his groove back. That defense looks pretty good. That Colts team could be scary. I think it's a good thing to keep an eye on the AFC South because despite getting injured last night, Beathard, CJ,
Yeah.
CJ Beathard, he actually didn't look bad. Didn't look terrible.
It'll
Yeah,
fall
I
apart.
just don't,
Unfortunately-
I just don't
unfortunately,
think
it'll
he'll
fall
keep
apart.
it up.
He,
Yeah.
he was my team's quarterback for a while. I know CJ Beathard.
So,
Jack's got good. Jack's got. Well, wait. What year was Beathard Niners QB?
He was on our team for like 5 years.
Would you argue that the Jags supporting cast now is better than that Niners team? Well, exactly. That's my
His wide
point.
receiver one was Marquise Goodwin.
Well, no, that's my point. Is like my point is the Jags like Jags supporting cast is really good. I think the Jags, despite losing their best player, could still be competable. They got a lot of offensive weapons and a good coach, offensive minded coach.
It's gonna be a tough one this week.
Who
They're
the Jags playing?
at the Browns. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think the Browns are very good anymore. But CJ Beathard at the Browns in his
Against the
first
Browns
start in
defense.
how long?
yeah, that's gonna be tough. All right. And there's also the one more game, Packers Chiefs. As a Packers fan, I don't think that was much of a tell as the Packers. I think it was just much more of a tell for the Chiefs. I thought the Chiefs, and I mean, the Chiefs have just been really strange this year. Don't get me wrong, that end game, like the Marquez Valdez-Scantling, that was definitely a PI.
They also
obviously
missed.
blown
They also
coverage.
missed a call on.
Yeah, but I
so
think
you can't really.
that the cheat, like
Or
that
medical.
that PI was way more important than the hit on Mahomes.
What PI?
On MVS
Marquise
to get them to the.
Yeah,
It was the one where he's like on top of
Loki tackled
Marquez
him.
and like
He's right.
tackled him
It was a
beforehand.
PI.
It was definitely a PI,
That whole game was horribly officiated.
but I think it talked a little bit more about the Chiefs this year having a down year than the Packers being that impressive. If I'm going to be honest, because I mean, that interception, I mean, it was an impressive catch, but that was, I mean, the Packers, Keyshawn Nixon read that like a book.
Gosh.
So, like,
I hate the Chiefs. I'm a Broncos fan, but saying it's a down year being 8-4 is crazy.
I know,
dude.
but they
I mean,
do not look the same.
You're right. They don't look the same, but
They
that
didn't
also
lo-
that
hey,
could also
That
say
is exactly what we were saying last year too.
they could
Yeah, I
also
mean-
say
But-
And they went and did it.
So
If you have the most talented and best quarterback to ever play this game, you have a chance.
exactly.
They just gotta
Again,
get it.
with one of the best coaches.
I just
Like
don't
yes,
think
that
he's
yes that
playing as
cast
good though.
that cast besides Kelsey and Pacheco. I think Pacheco's really good. Those receivers are terrible,
They are,
but
but they're not that
their
much.
defense has
they're
been
not.
killing it.
Their receivers aren't much worse than they were last year.
Exactly. Chiefs defense is killing it. And I mean, I just whenever I get my hopes up about like, oh, Mahomes having a down year, he'll just go off for like 7 games in a row, make a crazy playoff run. Chiefs are still I
Yeah, just
actually
think about how bad everyone's saying they're doing, and they're still 8-4 in the 3.
exactly. Do you want to hear something crazy? You're gonna hear it on. I have this documented. I still think they're the Super Bowl favorites right now.
Chiefs?
I think the Chiefs are.
Are you talking about like your pick or like?
My pick right
Okay.
now, I think the Chiefs are still winning the Super Bowl. As much as I'd hate to see it, and I'm going to be rooting against them every game,
I think
it's just they're having a down year. They're 8-4. They have the best quarterback of all time, talent wise. Like, dude, it's like they're not fooling anyone. They're good. They're a good team. They've had bad
They're
losses.
not a good team.
They're
They
they
good.
just have the best
Best coach,
quarterback.
best quarterback. They're
They,
gonna.
they have 3 amazing players. They have more than that, but like it's the big 3 of Kelsey, Mahomes, and Chris Jones. And Trent McDuffie's making his way in there, by the way. Trent McDuffie, you can't name 10 corners who have played better than McDuffie this year. He's playing out of his mind.
Well, and especially,
He's
I
a
think
big reason that defense is playing so well.
I think corners are such a big component of any team because it's really hard to find a good corner. And if you have a really good corner on your defense and you get to keep them, that is a big thing, especially with how great receivers are getting right now. If you have a really good corner, that's a really big tell.
At the end of the day, though, corner is kind of a dying position only because of how the rules are changing. It's getting more and more tough to play defense.
I know, but that's why it's really more important to get a better corner.
You're right.
If you have a good corner and it's harder to play defense, it's
You're right.
scarcer to find them.
I do.
you know?
I understand what you're saying.
So, I don't know. I think the Chiefs just aren't as good. That's why I put them lower in my.
Power rankings,
Power
which are
rankings,
dropping soon.
Yep,
Yeah.
Cainon's rocking that.
Yeah.
Probably out by the time this is out.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that'll be out. Yeah, it's gonna be out tonight. So
Mhm.
whenever whatever. But I think the Chiefs are and still my Super Bowl favorite. Unfortunately, I hate to say it. I'd way rather so many teams, but I mean, I'm looking at the current playoff picture right now. It is very tight. I mean, I was talking to Carter about Carter earlier. The 5 seed Steelers are 7-5. The 11 seed Bills are 6-6. That's one game.
It's insane.
That's crazy.
And a lot of those teams have played each other in between 5 and 11.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean,
And even in the NFC, the 6 and 11 are only separated by one
Mhm.
game.
Mhm.
So we are in for a really, really fun
Exactly.
playoff race.
maybe we should do this next episode. Do a playoff prediction, or you want to crank that out real quick now?
Nah, next episode.
Next episode, just prepare
I'll
for
have
it more.
to think about it.
Yeah, because dude, it can go so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
There's
just
so many things that could happen.
looking at this, I just don't think the Steelers can hold it up.
They have an
Um,
incredibly easy schedule.
Steelers have
It's
an
just-
incredibly easy schedule. Packers have an incredibly easy schedule. Let me look. I think Broncos have an incredibly easy schedule too. Broncos play Chargers twice, Raiders once, Patriots once, Lions once.
And in terms of 1 seed races, the Eagles have an easy schedule.
Like, besides the Cowboys game, like
So they have 2 decently hard matchups next. They got Cowboys and Seahawks, but then it's Giants, Cardinals, Giants.
yeah.
So
So-
if Philly wins the next 2 games, they get the 1 seed. They need to
Yeah.
drop 1 or 2 to even have a prayer of losing it. So that's a thing to keep an eye on.
but they
And
also
Dallas, if Dallas does it, they correct me if I'm wrong. I believe they're winning the division and they're the 2 seed
Yeah.
because I think they're 1 game behind now. Yeah,
Are they behind you guys?
we beat them. So yeah,
Oh, so you'd have the tiebreaker on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
what games did Cowboys lose this year?
Cardinals, 49ers, Eagles.
Okay.
tiebreaker doesn't matter, and it's division record first.
Well, if
I thought
they
head-to-head
if they
went.
win out,
I'm pretty sure it's head-to-head.
Texans are above the. Never mind.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what makes it scarier is
Rams
because
above Seattle.
the Eagles now have that
You might be
issue
right.
where, they kind of have to fend off the 49ers because, I mean, they still have the edge right now, but they did lose in the
They're
head-to-head.
still at a pretty big advantage. Don't get me wrong.
But they still kind of have to hold them off because they still have that leverage,
If they lose one of the next 2 games, if they lose a game at any point, they don't control their own destiny anymore.
Mhm.
And if they lose one game and Niners win out, they're 1 seed. And I know winning out, I don't think we're going to win out. I'm not saying that. But this is maybe the best team in the league finding their groove at a crucial time. Like, the Eagles can't really afford to drop one right now.
Yeah.
This Eagles-Cowboys game is probably one of the 2 or 3 most important games we've had of the year so far.
Is that this week?
Yeah. I'm
And that's
99%.
just a tough schedule for the Eagles.
And
Back to
and
back,
Seahawks too. Seahawks are a team who was on top of the NFC West 3 weeks ago, and then they lost to San Francisco. They lost to Dallas, and their next 2 games are San Francisco and Philly.
Yeah.
So
Seahawks.
the Seahawks might fall from 3 to like 12 in the span of a month.
And I think I don't have it off the top of my head. I think the Vikings have a few tough games too. I think that
They also
again.
don't have a quarterback. I mean,
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, RIP the Josh Dobbs movement. But I mean, I'm excited about the Rams. That's my NFC team to keep an eye on. Like if they slip in as a 6 or 7 seed, they'll be playing probably Niners, Cowboys, one of the Niners, Cowboys, maybe Eagles. But
Cowboys are like locked into 5. They're playing the winner of the NFC South
Yeah.
because 4 and 5 play.
you don't think the Cowboys could have a chance at beating the Eagles?
Oh, you're saying Cowboys win the division in this scenario?
Yeah.
I think they have a chance. If I had to pick right now, I wouldn't say.
But
they do
okay,
it.
my point is Rams could definitely. I think they could make a spark in the playoffs. I think they could be one of those teams because at the end of the day, I mean, good offenses find a way in the playoffs. I mean,
I want to see
good
I
defense-
want to see them beat someone first.
I do. You're right. They're playing the Browns. That doesn't.
Well, I
they,
mean,
they
like-
play the Browns, then they play
It's
the.
not nothing, but like
They play the Niners last game of the season.
Correct
Well,
me if I'm
that
wrong.
might not matter.
They both might be in by that point. But
There's a very, very real chance the Niners win or loss or the 2 seed come week 18. So it might just be a bench game.
that's true too.
Correct
actually,
me if I'm
I
wrong.
want that game to matter. I do.
The-
Oh, I do too.
The year that the 49ers were in the championship game and lost to the Rams, they were the 7th seed, right? I believe they were.
Yeah,
6 or
they
7.
beat the Pack.
Or is 6 or 7?
Wait, was that the year they beat
was-
the Packers
It
in that
was
snow game?
2021.
Yeah.
That was the
That's what I was
Rams
saying,
Bengals year.
Beat the Packers in the snow game.
I believe the Rams got the bye.
And I-
Rams. No, this is the year Rams beat the Buccaneers. Tom Brady's Buccaneers.
Mm-hmm.
The bye of that year.
It had to have been the
was
Packers. I mean,
the-
it was either
no.
the Packers or the Rams. I mean,
It wasn't the
it
Rams,
Was the
the
Packers.
Rams were a
it was
4
the
seed.
Packers.
and
Was the Packers? Yeah, who they
Packers were the
beat? Who they
one.
beat in the wild card?
Niners?
Yeah.
Cowboys.
So the Niners
Yeah.
beat the Cowboys in the wild card. That was
And
the
then they
Ezekiel,
moved
or that was the
in.
Dak Prescott sliding thing.
Yeah.
Then they beat the Packers, the snow
Beat the
game.
Packers in
And then on the
Lambeau.
other hand, the Rams
then
beat the Buccaneers on that Cooper Cup play after
Uh-huh.
the Rams almost blew it, which
I forgot who else they beat.
so I mean,
Rams?
Yeah.
Seahawks.
I think that's right.
Yeah. And then Rams play the Niners, and then a drop Niners pick turns into a Rams Super Bowl win.
So I think that's valid
Kind of.
to think
I
that
think that
the
pick
Rams
did.
could.
Oh, it mattered for sure, but the offense got the ball 2 more times with the same score after that.
I know this is a crazy tangent to go off of, but that Rams Buccaneers game, what do you think would happen if the
Tyreek came back.
Buccaneers so that game the Rams were up by, I think they blew a 24-point lead if I'm correct.
Something like it was something big.
Something ridiculous. Tie game. Stafford does an unbelievable play to Cooper Cup. What if that went into overtime and Tom Brady won that? How?
What about it?
I don't know. I'm just doing a what if scenario.
Oh.
That'd be crazy. I don't know. That tangent was
Well,
really
Cooper
random.
Cooper Cup burnt him. So
That was a
Yep.
random tangent. But we on to the
Yeah. I think there's still a lot of movement to go on. I think there's some, solid teams that are most likely going to be in the playoffs. I just don't know where. And I think that's a good general consensus. At least the top part, I think that's going to be those similar teams.
we need a
But, I
selection
mean,
committee.
We'll see. For the
NFL selection.
hey, that's a good
committee.
segue.
Yeah.
Yeah, good segue. We're starting off with the rankings in the college football because I'm gonna express my mind a little bit.
I'm excited for this.
Express my mind a little bit. So college football came out. College football playoffs came out. We got Michigan at 1, Washington 2, Texas 3, Bama 4. How is a power? And I know what you're gonna say. So don't say it. But how is
I'm gonna say it,
an
but I'll wait for you to finish.
undefeated Power 5 school not making it to the playoffs over one injury?
I'll tell you.
That makes me so angry for Florida State. I think Alabama did deserve it. I think
So who do
I
you-
think Florida
okay,
State
so
deserved
who
it
do you
over
kick out?
Texas. I think they deserved
Texas
it over
beat Bama.
And they won
If Bama's in, Texas gotta be
convincingly
in.
over Oklahoma State.
Okay. My point is, one of those teams, get out of there.
Which one?
Florida State.
Yeah, that's the tough part. I think
You still kick off Texas just because of that strength of schedule. But Florida State, they are undefeated. They're a Power 5 team, ACC championship. How do you not get them into the playoffs?
I'll tell you
Their
exactly why.
season. So that means, imagine you told these kids at the beginning of the season, you're going to go undefeated, but you're not making the playoffs. That's ridiculous.
teams do that all the time
Context
too. Like, I mean,
matters.
And I think that they're going to have a chip on the shoulder going in this Georgia game. I think he's going to disagree with me on this one, but I think Florida State is beating Georgia.
How much do you want to bet right now, right here? How much money?
You know how much money I have in my bank account.
Every cent of it. I don't know how much you have after today, but
All 89 cents of my money.
oh Lord,
oh, he's putting it all on the line there, all on the table.
But no, I think.
talk to me when you get your
Well,
paycheck.
once we go over all the bowl games, we'll do some nice predictions.
Well,
but that's a
all right.
little spoiler.
Well,
on my
I
prediction.
want to give my take now because you asked a question and I'm going to answer it.
Okay.
Florida State, amazing season, 13-0, conference champs. That's all good and well. Florida State, of all the teams in consideration, had significantly the easiest schedule. Easily. The ACC is a much weaker conference than any of these other teams. So that's reason one. Reason two, obviously because Jordan Travis snapped his leg. He was their best player. He was their most important player. And not only that, because they still could have made it if they played well after he got hurt, but they didn't. I know they won, but their offense quite literally was scoring less than half as many points as they were with Jordan Travis. Less than half against not that good of teams.
Mhm.
Like, they weren't playing well. And the committee has every right to do this because in the rules, when you look it up,
I saw that. Yeah.
like they're allowed to consider injuries.
Mhm.
And now look at it. They are number 5 and they are 14-point underdogs to number 6. And I've seen the argument, they put Cincinnati in when Cincinnati was a weak school who went undefeated.
There's not really.
That is exactly why Florida State isn't in, because we saw what happened when Cincinnati went in.
And
They were outclassed. They didn't belong.
I think to go on top of that too, with Cincinnati that year, I don't think there was that much of close contention.
Yeah,
because
this year is super close.
it was-
and here's
Yeah.
here's above all my main argument. Who do you kick out? Michigan,
No.
undefeated, best team in the country. I've been saying it for a long time that they were better than
You don't
Georgia.
kick out Michigan, don't kick out Washington.
Washington, undefeated Pac-12 champion, 2 wins over Oregon. They're absolutely in. Texas, they played better teams. They only have 1 loss. They beat Alabama. They are conference champions and dominated in their conference championship. Oh, and their most important players healthy. Alabama, 12-1. Their only loss of the season was week 2 to another playoff team. They are champions of the best conference in the country, and they just beat number 1 overall. All 4 of those teams deserve to be in more than Florida State. And as a matter of fact, if I was the one ranking it, I'd have Georgia above Florida State. I would have Ohio State above Florida State. Maybe just that. But I think I would have Florida State at 7 or 8 because we saw what they looked like without Jordan Travis, and that is not a playoff team. Not even close.
I totally agree as well.
I'm gutted for them. I'm really sad for Florida State because they have a championship-level defense. They really do. And with Jordan Travis, I still think they would have been a little outclassed in the playoff, but they could at least hold their own.
Mhm.
And it sucks to see for them, but I think it's absolutely the right decision for the playoff.
And I think another argument as well, we talked about this before and we argued this. If a team should move down despite a win that season, or despite a win that week. And I mean, whether or not I believe in it, it makes sense for them to do and move them out of the top 5 after a
agree.
week win, because they did that before this year. Where
Scraping by Louisville
This
is not
contradicts what you said a
as
few weeks ago.
impressive as beating Georgia.
And I think as well, like I
And,
argued that
okay, here's
Georgia shouldn't have moved.
Here's
you know?
the one thing I'll give: Georgia shouldn't have moved.
No, Georgia shouldn't have moved from number 1 to number 2
He's talking about a few
after
weeks ago.
in previous, and that's the argument. And that's the same thing.
No, that's
you know?
not. It's not the same thing because Georgia moved from 1 to 2 because they switched from using the AP poll to the college football playoff thing. Like it was 2 different rankings.
I know, but that's still the same. Like, I mean, I felt like if Georgia was still at number 1 at that point, I think, and we've seen that before.
I know you felt that way. I'm just saying it's not like the same poll moved them down. The AP poll still had them at 1. It's just officially once the college football playoff starts ranking them, that's what they turn over to.
Our doomsday scenario, like
I know that was
turned out
very
pretty well.
similar.
The only difference is Michigan won, but
Well, Michigan and Washington.
the Washington one wasn't mad. Winner of the Pac-12 was going, no matter what.
yeah.
So that one wasn't as like crazy, but
It would have set the world on fire though if 1 lost Oregon, 1 lost Bama, 1 lost Texas all made it though. But here's the thing.
That would have been 1 lost Michigan too.
Here is my big gripe is I don't know what their balance is between best and most deserving. Because Georgia, like I understand keeping Florida State out because they are not even close to a top 4 team in the country right now. Not at all. But by that logic, Georgia should be in because they are absolutely a top 4 team in the country.
let me ask you
You know
this.
what I mean? It's interesting to see where the balance is because, you know, it feels a little hypocritical.
Okay, let me ask you this though. Would your opinions change if Florida State went into the Orange Bowl and beat Georgia? Would that change your opinion on Florida
If
State?
both
and
teams like play their starters and everything, yeah, absolutely.
Jordan Travis lists. So no, okay, I'm gonna word that different. Florida State beats Georgia this Orange Bowl.
Mhm.
Would you retract that statement and be like, all right, maybe I was wrong. Florida State maybe did deserve to go in the top 4 because you by that wording you just said Georgia is a top 4 team.
I believe they are.
So
I think that's
if
still-
Florida
well,
State
Hold on,
went,
he asked me a
if
question.
Florida State went into the Orange Bowl
Mhm.
and beat a quote unquote top 4 team, do you think they would deserve it?
This is tough. I'm trying to think of how to word this. I think if they did that, in hindsight, they probably deserve to be in. But even if they go out and beat Georgia, I will defend the decision to leave them out
Okay.
because this decision is based off what we've seen.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So I think that we can look back and say, oh yeah, we were wrong. They deserved it. But I will defend the decision.
Fair point. Okay.
Yeah, I still think it's fair to think that, you know, at this moment, it's Florida State. And I don't think it's fair to go like, oh, since they won, it's not fair to think that in this moment, if that makes sense. To go back
It
and
didn't.
think.
No, I understand what you're saying.
I guess
So,
I'm
like,
just dumb. I didn't pick up.
It's like, you know, right now we think that it's fair for Florida State to be out of the playoffs. So I think if they lose then, it's not fair for us to change our opinions just because something happened later,
Yeah.
then not in this moment.
we can
I was
we
just
can
curious-
change our opinion. We just we can't.
Retract what we
Yeah.
said.
Right.
So I just was curious on what he thought because he doesn't think they're deserving. I think they are deserving. So I was like, oh, maybe if
Do you
Florida State beats Georgia,
just walk with me here?
Okay.
Michigan Bama is going to be a great game.
yes,
By all, Bama's favored.
I think
Matter of fact.
the winner of Michigan Bama is winning.
I
the
completely
of
agree.
winning the championship.
So say they slid Florida State in that 4. Actually, if Florida State made it, they probably would have been 3. The only reason Bama's 4 is because Texas beat them.
Exactly.
Just hypothetically, they're number 4. They're playing against number 1 Michigan.
Okay.
Do you give them any chance based on what you've seen since Jordan Travis went down?
I think Michigan wins.
And I know this isn't your argument for them being in. It's just a question.
Yeah, I think Michigan wins. Michigan is by far the best team. I hate saying this because I liked Ohio State
I
this
don't know
year,
about by far.
but I think they are by far the best team in the college football. I think Bama's actually gonna.
I
Okay,
think-
that
I
goes
think-
off to
I
what
think
I'm saying.
Bama's the best.
No, that's how I was actually. But whatever. Going on to your scenario, Michigan is the best team in the country by far. I think they'd beat Florida State. I don't think it would have been a blowout. I think it would have been a hard fought match. I think it would
Is
have
it
come.
because of Florida State's defense?
Yes,
Because
precisely.
Iowa's got one of the best defenses in the country too. and we just saw what Michigan did to Iowa.
I mean, yeah. I think Florida State's offense is better than Iowa's offense, though, even without Jordan Travis.
Well, yeah.
Because Iowa's the worst off. And when you have the worst, I think I'd argue that Iowa is one of the worst offenses in all of NCAA.
They're one of them.
So if you put a very bad offense with a really good defense and that team loses, odds are it's going to be about a lot. Like, this reminds me of the Broncos a few years ago when the Broncos had one of the best, it's arguably, last year the Broncos had statistically a top 3 defense in the NFL, but they had statistically the worst offense in the NFL. They still gave up a decent amount of points only because the offense wasn't getting first downs, wasn't changing possession on the field. So that's my point with that is
I'm so glad you brought that up because that matters so much.
Yes,
when
like,
talking about a defense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is the
okay. I'm sorry that this is the first example I thought of, but it is. The Super Bowl Niners Chiefs, everyone blamed the defense because they gave up 21 in the fourth quarter or the second half, 21 in a row. No mention of the offense going 3 and out, drive after drive after
And
drive.
that makes you tired too.
like it makes your defense tired.
You're putting a defense on the field every like 5 to 7 minutes against a high-powered offense. There's only so long they can hold up.
So I think,
and that's the case in
I think
every
the fact
defense.
that Iowa gave up 26 points shows how good their defense was.
I agree.
That shows
No,
how
I agree.
good their defense was. So I think Florida State's offense, even without Jordan Travis, is better. So I still think that would have been a little bit closer.
I just think that Florida State is tiers below all of these playoff teams. In their current state.
I like Florida State in their current state. I do understand.
But then
what they're
again,
saying.
that makes it interesting
At
that
the end of the
Georgia's
day-
not in because Georgia is a better team.
Exactly.
That's maybe less deserving.
And at the end of the day, they're just trying to make money. That's what all the NCAA is trying to do, and they don't
know
want to
about
take
that.
a risk. I think that's what they're trying to
I know
do.
think
that's
it's
their
also just
overall goal. I don't
competition.
think that.
And
shows
I
these
think
teams.
it takes a play
Yeah.
in this. They do anything to get Bama, in my opinion. I think Bama did deserve it, yes, but I think they would have done anything in their power to get them in. But my point is they don't
It's
want to
fair.
watch a slaughter on New Year's Eve. Is that the first round?
I think so.
They don't want to see a slaughter on New Year's Eve. It happened to Michigan. I don't know why the first team I thought about was Michigan State like 6 years ago, but Michigan State 6 years ago happened to Cincinnati. They hate that. They want money.
As
they
they
want it to be a
should.
close game, as they should. You're right. So they didn't want to take that risk with
Like
Florida
I
State.
understand that they're doing that for them, but
Well,
that's
also, I mean,
also for us.
They didn't want it exactly,
Like-
and they didn't want to take a risk of that happening with Florida State. I just think
I really do think the biggest comparison here is Cincinnati when they
Yeah.
made it. I think that played a factor.
my
into why
only
Florida
thing with the
State's not in.
Cincinnati thing is the Cincinnati. I think Florida State's schedule this year is a lot harder than Cincinnati was that year.
Absolutely, but
So-
Cincinnati's healthy, or
Yeah.
they were healthy.
Mhm. I think
They had Desmond Ridder though.
They did.
I think as well, like and we've talked about it before off air. Michigan's reaction to Alabama being in the
Yeah,
playoffs
That shows it,
tells
dude.
that they're a top
does
4 team.
that does tell.
Like,
Absolutely.
And that's why I think Bama deserved it. I just don't like Texas, in my opinion. I don't like the Big 12 when it comes to football. I never have been a fan of Big 12 besides Oklahoma State.
I feel like you can't keep 12-1 Texas with a win over Alabama out if
You're
Alabama's
right,
in.
and that game is what it came
I understand
down to.
what you're saying, and I don't think Texas. They might be a
You
top 4 team.
swap that Texas win with that Texas win over Alabama. You swap that with like a win over like I don't know, like
What's crazy?
Louisiana Tech.
If-
You switch that with a Louisiana Tech win, Florida State's in over Texas. It's
you
just that it
you
came down to
could
that game.
switch it to another good win, and Florida State might be in.
Yeah.
It's the fact that they beat another playoff team,
Mhm.
Fair.
in my opinion.
And no,
Alright.
that's a good point. But my heart goes out to Florida State, and
It sucks.
I hope they prove everyone wrong in the Orange Bowl. I really do. I want Florida State to win it so bad. I hate Georgia. Georgia's always been my least favorite team in college football, and Florida State, I'm rooting for them just for the story. And that goes into it. What are you guys' pick for all these big games that we have listed up
Yeah,
here?
I-
Let's start with the Orange Bowl because
I wrote down the bowl games that interested me the most, at least.
Well, we're not
and-
going to pick our college playoff wins.
Oh, whoa, you're
not
right.
yet. Not yet.
Oh, not yet.
It's
We
not,
only have 3 minutes.
We have 3 minutes.
It's not next week.
He's right.
We'll do it
Actually,
next
it's
week.
not next week. We'll do that next week. Bowl wins.
Actually, we can do all the bowl games next week.
that's true.
Yeah.
So the last thing I guess we'll talk about. Oh no! First of all, the Heisman finalists
yeah.
were announced,
Mhm.
and it's Jaden Daniels and 3 losers. And by those 3 losers, I mean Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Marvin Harrison Jr.
I got to
And I agree with Cainon. Go ahead, say what you were gonna say. I agree.
Why is Marvin Harrison up there? Like,
Don't get me wrong. He is
Look,
the best
look,
receiver
look.
in the country.
he's
But
best
it's
receiver
not about
talent
that.
wise. Okay, if we were going by, because Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix have are statistically the best quarterbacks. They aren't the best. I think Jaden Daniels is, but they aren't the best when it comes to skill. Unfortunately, Caleb Williams comes down to, as much as I hate Caleb Williams, he's probably the most talented quarterback, and Drake May.
Yeah.
They are not in this. So if we're going based off talent, why aren't they in this? Marvin Harrison's stats are like, what does he have, 700 yards in the season versus...
Whoa.
He has way more than 7.
Are you sure?
Ooh.
I'm curious on this.
I'm with you that he shouldn't be up
I'm
there,
curious.
but I think you're downplaying him a little too much.
He's probably the. I mean, he's.
I'm
top
so curious
receiver
about this because I saw a
right
graphic.
now. I just don't think
Maybe I
he's
misread the graphic.
I'd be
finalist.
shocked if he was below. Yeah, 1,214.
Oh, I'm stupid. Never mind.
I
Cut
mean,
that.
But I totally agree.
I
what
don't
am
know
I-
if he
what am I
quite
lo-
deserves to be up here, but I don't think it's
well, who
ridiculous.
else would be up there? I mean, like
Mabel's.
Ollie Gordon.
I love Ollie Gordon. No, Ollie Gordon just did so bad against Texas, did so
Yeah.
bad against another top-ranked team who I'm blanking on. That's what killed with Ollie Gordon as much as I loved him. And low-key, Ollie Gordon was a head case in that game. He was like screaming at the
I mean-
coaches, but which is kind of funny.
if Bo Nix would have beaten Washington, I think he would have won.
I agree.
He didn't,
I
so I, think
disagree.
it's going to be Jaden Daniels. Now.
Oh, no. I agree. If Bo Nix won, he would have won it. I don't think he would have deserved it, though. I think Jaden Daniels deserves it by far.
Absolutely.
By far.
Here is my thing with Marvin Harrison. If you're going to put a receiver in there, it has to be Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, it has to be statistically the best.
And he
Statistically was.
He had over 1,500 this year.
How do you pronounce the last name? Neighbors?
Neighbors.
Neighbor. Is it N or an M?
N.
Oh.
But yeah.
I was looking at Keon Coleman's stats. Keon Coleman only has 700 yards in
I
the
know.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it has to be Daniels. Statistically, strength of schedule, value,
I
all of
agree.
that. It all plays for Daniels. The only thing that didn't was team success. But Penix had too many bad games to be a real contender. And Bo Nix,
Bo Nix killed it.
Bo Nix doesn't have as much of a team success edge anymore now
Yeah.
that he has 2 losses.
Yeah, I agree.
And is out of the playoffs. So
I think Jaden Daniels deserves it. He's had a kick butt
a
year.
legendary year.
Legendary year. He killed it. Did he declare or is he staying?
I think he has. I think he's pretty old, isn't he?
I think he's
I'd have to
staying.
double check
If
that.
I'm double checking, let's just say he does go in the draft. Hopefully,
I think he'll come
a team snags him 4th, 5th
But,
round,
yeah.
3rd round, and gets a good player. But,
Real quick before we go, Wisconsin remains with our crown or ball or whatever you want to call it in our King of the Hill game, and they did it by upsetting number 8 Marquette.
unfortunately,
Which wasn't
they
that
have,
yours? Wasn't it your pick?
no, I had
Marquette?
Providence. But I
They
did want
have-
Marquette to win, so the Big East kept it.
They have 2 games before we talk again about sports, and it's at Michigan State, not easy, and then at number 1 Arizona. So we'll see.
see.
And I'm going to put together like a list or something, or I'm going to try to, of how long each team holds the ball, and they'll be like our backup winner to whoever
Yeah.
holds it last. But
All right. Well, I think that's enough for today. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next one. Peace.
Yay!